Hi everybody, welcome to another video at Abraham's Table Farm. It is Thursday, May 8th, and we are really getting into the thick of things now. This week we got our second batch of chicks, which puts us a little over 500 broiler chicks on the property. We still have our 300 egg layers who are out on pasture in their mobile coop, rolling around, doing all that. The garden is getting more and more planted out. As you can see, crops are filled up about a little over half of that space there. A lot of our warm season things are about to go out because we've probably had our last frost now. So things like tomatoes and cucumbers have been potted up. They're big in the greenhouse down here behind me, and they are eager to get into the ground. So those will be going out shortly. And we're even starting to harvest some of our spring crops. We've had our spring spinach for a little while now. And now we have lettuces coming in, we've got chives, and there will be a couple more things rolling in over the next weeks. CSA is not that far away, maybe about a month away before the CSA season officially starts, and a lot of people will start getting their deliveries. And our beef cows will probably be coming very shortly. I'm not exactly sure on when that date is going to be, but it might be next week sometime. So everything is really rolling around here, and we are in the thick of it. As you can see behind me, there's a green fuzz all over the trees now. Things are finally starting to leaf out. We're going to get some really warm temperatures this weekend, all the way up into the mid 80s, which is really warm for us in May. But that's what you get when you're in Minnesota. It's wild swings in the spring and in the fall, from warm to cold. And rapid shifts. So we're dealing with that as best we can, trying to keep everything watered in. The ground is really dry. We didn't have a lot of moisture last fall or a big snowpack this winter, so the ground is actually pretty dry comparatively, but we're doing the best we can in spite of that. There is a lot going on here, so I'm going to take you and show you everything with the camera, and that will show you firsthand what we've been doing in the last couple weeks. So let's go spin around and see what's happening. One big thing that happened this week was that our walk-in cooler and refrigerator got its power hooked up. We got permanent power out here. Power comes from the house, and we trenched it all the way in and hooked it up here, which is huge for us because we've been relying on extension cords for many years now, and it was time for an upgrade. Extension cords were annoying, and every once in a while they would short out or something like that, but it was just not the biggest problem that we had to contend with, so we never got the upgrade. But now that we will be having larger power needs out here to keep these spaces cold, it was time to get permanent power trenched in. So our friend Peter Schmansky, who's a master electrician, came out and put that in for us, which is great. It's also powering the greenhouse now, so we have more reliable power out there, and it's getting power to the wash stand as well, where we process all the vegetables. So lots of power upgrades, which will help me to sleep easier at night. It also means that very soon we'll be able to move from this, which is our refrigerated trailer that we've been using for years as a walk-in. We'll be able to upgrade to this. We'll probably still take this trailer on deliveries to keep things cool. It's nice to have in the background another space for keeping things cold, but this will be better. It'll keep more constant temperature and more space to work in and to keep things organized. This was getting pretty cramped with our big harvests in the middle of the season. So the refrigeration units are not quite hooked up in these walk-ins yet, but they're basically finished inside. It's pretty dark in there, but lots of space for working and stacking boxes and bins and having everything more organized, which will just help our workflow considerably. So we're gonna have one big chamber that's gonna be a refrigeration, and that's where all the vegetables and all the things that really need cold will be. But then we'll also have this other chamber, which will be more like a cellar, kind of mid temps, 50s, 60s, and dry, and that will be where we can put a lot of our storage crops, which will be good because we've been using our basement for many years to keep those stored, and while that's a pretty good environment, it's not entirely regulated, and so now we'll be able to have this space with the temperature more dialed in and the humidity more dialed in, and make sure things have the longest shelf life possible, and we can have those storage crops from late in the fall all the way into the spring and kind of start to have a more consistent food supply year round. So yeah, and there's also things like cucumbers and tomatoes that don't really want to be in the refrigerated section, but we need to keep them out of the heat of the sun. And so this chamber will also be used for that, even in the summer when we don't have storage crops to put in there. So that was a big accomplishment this week to get this stuff set up. There's still one more step of getting the AC units in there to keep them really cool. And we'll let you know when that happens, hopefully in the next few weeks before our big harvests. We'll get that all finished up. Another thing we did this week while we had the trencher to trench the power lines out to the walk-in is we used that trencher along this west side of the garden. It took me several hours to do this, and it was not the most fun job on the farm, but we used the trencher to dig down 18 inches and just cut a groove along the whole western side of this garden. The reason for that is that all these tree roots had figured out that there was really great fertile soil here in the garden, and they'd been sending their roots into the garden for several years. And it had been the case that the last 5 to 10 feet of all of the beds in the garden actually had pretty low production, significantly lower. The crops would be nice and big and lush, and then as they got close to this edge of the garden, they would taper off and be really stunted and small. And that was just because the tree roots were out competing all of the vegetable crops for nutrients. And so it was drier on this end of the bed and things didn't grow as well. Here's an example of a tree root that we dug out. It's pretty big here. You know, these are big roots that come in from the woods behind me and invade the garden. So using the trencher to cut through there, cut a ton of roots, and that will help the garden be productive right up to the edge and keep those trees from taking the irrigation water and all the nutrients away from the vegetables. We will need to fill that trench back in, but got the money's worth out of that rental of that equipment. As you can see also, there's a lot of things coming up in the garden here. You can see these ground sows, spinach, arugula, radishes, lettuce mixes. They're all growing pretty well here in the garden right now. Nothing out here is quite big enough to harvest yet, but it's coming. And there's some bigger things, pak choi, parsley, lettuce heads, goes on and on and on. You can even see the garlic just past these sprinklers that are growing. And then in the high tunnels is where most of the things that we can harvest right now are, and I will show you those in a second here. We got our chives here, some of these more permanent beds where the herbs go. Chives are looking great, very strong. And then in the tunnels here, we've got young spinach that's looking pretty good, whole bed of it. And we've got old spinach, big beds of spinach here that are just overgrown, need to be mowed down. You can see this growth is just pretty big. They need to be mowed down and turned over so that we can put summer crops in here. In all of these tunnels, we will have our tomatoes in here trellised up to the rafters, cucumbers trellised up to the rafters. These spaces will be filled with some really important crops, but we got to get all the winter stuff out of the way before we can make that transition. The greenhouse is just pumping out plants, tons of things that need to be transplanted out, cucumbers and tomato plants that are really big and starting to flower. There's a lot up there as well. It just keeps coming. We start more every week, and all that stuff needs to go into the ground now that we are into the warmer temperatures outside. And just 2 days ago, we got our next batch of baby chicks. So they're here in the brooder, eating and drinking and scurrying around. Just a few days old. These guys are pretty cute right now. And they did fine. We had a cold night last night, down to 30. And they did just fine under their heat lamps. They look comfortable and happy. And then here is the batch that's just a little bit older. These guys just hit 3 weeks and they're getting their true feathers. You can see the white feathers on their shoulders and their wings. Those white feathers are what allow them to regulate their body temperature. So now that they have those feathers, they can go out on pasture and stay warm even if the nights are chilly. So we're getting ready to put them out. We haven't quite yet, but they can go out now. It's usually about the 3-week mark that they can go out. And so they're 3 weeks in a day, and we just had one more cold night. I think from now on, it looks like it'll be good for them to get out into their pens and get onto pasture where they can eat grass and bugs and be in fresh air. But of course, this is our old, where the layers live all winter in these spaces inside this tunnel on deep bedding. There's the goose. The goose was brought up as predator control because we did have some rat sightings around here, tunneling underneath the brooder and around the walls on the outside. So we brought that goose up, and we haven't really seen any rat activity since then. So we're hoping that she's the reason. Just sitting outside and honking whenever she sees something she doesn't like is enough. But yeah, chicks are doing great. They're comfortable. They have lots of space. Pretty soon they'll be outside. Piggies are also doing well. They're about ready to go out as well. They've learned their electric fence lessons now. They don't touch it anymore, and that means they're ready to go. They're also less skittish. They come right up to you. You can scratch their backs, hang out with them. And so that means they're ready to go out on pasture where they will respect that single strand of electric fencing, stay off of it, and we'll be able to take them where they need to go to get good fresh ground. Here I am at the mobile coop in the pasture. The chickens are out here laying their eggs. They've got their shade cloth extended on this side so that they can have plenty of relief from the hot sun today. They've got their feeders, waterers, and lots of space and lots of green grass. You can see how the grass is greening up nicely ahead of them. If you look behind them where they just came, they've eaten a lot of that green grass down. So they're snipping off little tops of the grass pretty effectively, and that's all going to show up in the nutrition of their eggs and the quality of the yolks. But you can see behind them mostly brown because they've eaten it off, green ahead. And we don't think of chickens as grazing animals because they're not, but they do eat 15-20% of their diet can be fresh green things. So it can be there. Inside the coop, laying eggs, nest boxes full of eggs. There's a lot in there. I won't show you right now, but lots of eggs every day. We're getting, almost 300 every single day. So good lay rate. They're still comfortable and happy and healthy and enjoying themselves out on pasture. As long as they have some shade to hide under, they're pretty good. So keep buying those eggs. Get a subscription if you want to make sure that you've got eggs through the summer. We anticipate when our CSA starts in a couple of weeks, many of our CSA members will be getting eggs regularly locked in for the whole summer and into the fall. And so if you want to make sure that you can get eggs through that time as well, and we don't sell out on you, please put a subscription in or get a CSA for yourself. And that way you will be insured eggs all season long. So that's the pasture. It's greening up nicely. Pretty soon we'll have the pasture pens moving with the meat birds in them. Pretty soon we will be having cows grazing, though we will likely graze them at the other property. So I just need to walk around the pasture at this time and really pinpoint exactly where the pasture pens are going to run in order to revitalize that land, because we always use our meat birds on the lowest fertility sections of our pasture because their manure really jump starts the growth. So we'll find those spots where growth is just lacking, and that's where the birds will run and take it up to the next level. You can see here even the birds are crowded around a cow pie here that they've been scratching out. That's a cow pie from last year, and they'll be getting the fly larvae out of it and scratching it. But yeah, pasture's coming along, growth is starting to pick up, and we're gonna have tall green grass. Okay everybody, that's it for now. I'm gonna have to cut this video short because we've got a lot to do today, and I got to run out and deliver some orders and pick up some things. So that's it for today. Please sign up for the CSA, tell your friends, spread the word, and place those orders. We're having things available in our store now, like the salad mix that's coming in strong. and we need people to buy that. We're trying to push the season earlier and earlier and get things started before the CSA starts. We need you to buy those things to help us really make that a real part of the farm. So if you can purchase those things, please do it, and tell your friends, and enjoy your spring, and we'll see you next time.